There we go. What's up, everybody? It's A.M.O.K, and we are definitely going AMOK. Oh my good gravy.
Yeah, we definitely live up to our name.
Oh my gosh. And
it wouldn't be us if everything went smoothly, right?
No, it would not. Absolutely not. All right. It is Mo's turn for stir. For stir.
For stir. Okay.
For stir.
For sure. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Last week it was Arkansas week, but Mo presented last week.
Yes.
So Mo has Mo stuff to show you this week or tell you about. So here we go. Mo stuff. Alrighty, here we go. Arcadia Valley Spring Mountain Music Festival is apparently this weekend, May 16th through the 17th, and it's down in Ironton, Missouri. That's about an hour and a half south of St. Louis area. Coming up in a couple of weeks, Wagons for Warriors. That's going to be in Lebanon, Missouri, on May 24th. You get to pretend that you're cowboys and cowgirls there. It appears to be mostly chuck wagon foods, but it looks like there's probably going to be a lot more stuff in the wings. So that's on May 24th. Lebanon, Missouri. That's about 2.5, maybe 3 hours southwest of us here. The Heart of the Ozarks Fair will be in West Plains, Missouri. It's down south. It's going to be June the 3rd through the 7th, and it's a full-scale carnival. So if you're afraid of clowns, don't go. If you're not, go, or close your eyes, go anyway.
I can see people closing their eyes walking around the place going.
Well, that could be kind of fun.
So, it'd be interesting. That's for sure.
Would definitely be different. Yes. Let's see. August 29th through September the 1st, we have the Big River Steampunk Festival. I think this is their 11th or 12th year. That's going to be up in Humble, Missouri. So about an hour and a half north of me. A lot of fun. Just a lot of fun, a lot of activities, and just a great weekend. The Haunted America Conference is coming up on June 26th through the 29th, I believe it is, up in Alton, Illinois. That's a lot of fun. I think this will be out of the 27 I think they've had. I think this will be my 10th time there over the past 27 years.
Wow.
So it's good stuff. I'm gonna move to a different state here for a moment. I gotta plug.
Are you going to Illinois?
Not yet. Well, Alton is in Illinois, so yeah, I've already been there. The Border Town Paranormal Conference. I'm going to Kansas right now. Let's see. That is September 27th, correct, Pam?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to plug that one because
he didn't check that before we came on.
have ESPN too.
I'm
It's
wrong.
okay.
That's okay. I get it.
Okay. Well, I kept thinking it was.
Adrian's Tina was texting that they're watching, so I was making sure they had
I'm so
the link.
sorry. I did not get the Facebook working. Don't hurt
we
me.
we kept our name alive, Adrian.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. I think we have the Arkansas Paranormal Expo. So I'm
Yes.
plugging for you Arkansas, which was not plugged last. That's down in Little Rock, and that's going to be, I believe, October 25th and 26th. And as a side thing here, we've got a bunch of things that we're all going to. I know Adrian, who's not here tonight, he is currently en route to Indiana. So I hope you guys have a great time. Smile, say hi
Have
to us.
fun. You did
In
say hi just now.
well, okay, I didn't see it anywhere, but it's okay. Um, this weekend, I'm actually going to West Virginia Penitentiary. Never been there. I am stoked. I am totally excited about this one. So I'm
Cool.
looking forward to that. August the 2nd, several of us are going to the Aurora Brothel down in Aurora, Missouri. I'm hearing that there's a paranormal conference down in Cape Girardeau, August the 30th through the 31st, but I've not seen any information on that now for about a month or two. So I'll check into that and we'll update everybody maybe next week.
That same day, too, August 2nd, is the Kansas City Paracon
There you go.
in Lawrence, Kansas, too.
Okay,
So
and
we'll
you're
be at
going,
that. Yeah,
and you're going somewhere. Oh,
we'll be at that.
you'll be at that one.
And
Okay,
then, yeah, we'll be at that one. And then July 5th, Watertown speaking at the Kansas UFO Day in Geneseo, Kansas.
cool.
Yeah.
So
Wait.
more things. Silcon up in Gaze, Illinois. That's going to be September 19th through the 21st. I'm going to that one. I'm not sure who else. Also, the same weekend, uh, other members here of AMOK are going down to the to Paragould, Arkansas, and Shaw. That is called.
Oh, Scared City presents the High Eye Nation Paranormal Horror Show.
Okay, you did well. Thanks.
You're welcome.
October the 18th, a bunch of us are going to the Sleeper Mortuary, as many of you are talking about, and that's going to be in Kansas.
Yep.
The I mentioned the Arkansas Expo, that's on October 25th. And here in St. Louis on October the 24th, Friday, the Missouri Botanical Gardens, I think this is their 10th year doing it. They have a fun adult, basically an adult Halloween party called Spirits in the Garden. It is a blast.
Spirit.
And I'm one of the presenters there, and I talk about the ghosts of the garden. You can also watch Spirits in the Garden documentary that we put together about 10 years ago, and we talk about the ghosts, and everybody else drinks the spirits that are being displayed and um, sold and sampled and what else. So
Awesome.
it's a lot of fun. So that is Mo's stuff. We're all done.
Sweet, because we have a great guest. I'm so excited to have him on. I'm going to go ahead and pull him. It's Mike RICKSECKER, everybody. Say hello.
Hello,
Hey,
hello.
welcome, Mike.
Thank you. And Ken, I'm thinking here, maybe it was the Arkansas Expo that we met at.
It's possible. Well,
Yeah.
this will be my
Um,
second time going. I don't know if you were there last year.
Oh no.
no.
Okay, no, that was like 5 years. Well, no, I think it was like 2019. So 6 years almost. Yeah, it was
Time
before COVID.
flies so
Yeah, no,
fast.
it was
Yeah,
probably Mineral Springs, most
probably Mineral
likely,
Springs. Then all
because
right.
I've been up there at least 30, 40 times in the past 15 years.
Okay,
So
that was
yeah,
probably it. Yeah.
yeah, I've investigated there and yeah, spent a lot of time up that way. But anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome. Those that don't know who Mike is, you've been in the dark. Because he's been on so many shows. He's been on Ancient Aliens. He's been on Oh my gosh, Mike, you want to go ahead and tell everybody where you've been on?
Oh, geez. Okay, yeah. The Unexplained with William Shatner, Unbelievable with Dan Aykroyd. I have met Shatner once for like a hot minute. Have not met Aykroyd. Everybody always asks me, "Have you met those guys?" That we don't film with them is the thing. They film them in like a different studio, different background, all that sort of thing. And they film us off to the side one by one. The Alaska Triangle, The Haunted. The latest was Hunting History with Stephen Ranella, and then me up there in the Alaska Triangle again. So that was fun to go back up there last year.
Oh
Cool.
my gosh, I bet you've
That's
been
really
you've
cool.
been a busy man. Because you, like you said to us in the backstage, you just flew in from California this morning.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. I had a great almost 2 weeks, a little more than a week and a half in the UK. Came back last Monday, had about 3 days to get myself organized here, and then was off to the New Living Expo in San Rafael, California, just north of San Francisco. And my travel day back was Monday, but delays. I was actually stuck in Detroit overnight in their airport and just got back this morning. It's kind of crazy because Detroit is like maybe 2.5 hours from my house. So I probably could have
Drove.
walked.
Ubered it.
Yeah, it's kind of a silly flight. So I was flying Delta, and Delta has a hub there in Detroit, and it's like the Detroit to Cleveland flight. You just shoot me out of a cannon over the lake, you know. But had to wait it out because of the time I got in. I was even looking, can I get a rental car and just drive home and sleep in my own bed? No, the rental car places were closed. So okay,
Oh man.
Oh
hang out in the airport all
man.
night.
Well, wow.
Oh,
Hey,
so
on the
Adrian said, yeah, he just mentioned that we brought Mike in as a speaker for the Arkansas Expo several years ago. Yeah, we were
Yeah,
talking about that before you came on, Mike. Like, they need to get you into the expo
I would
again.
love to do the Arkansas Expo again. We had a great time, and yeah, that I think it was 2019, the year before COVID, and then COVID kind of killed it. And I think Adrian asked me back. Maybe it was when it first started back up. It didn't jive with my schedule, but yeah, it was a great event. I loved it there.
Yeah, it's a great place. It's a great
Yeah.
place. Those that know you or have seen you, know you from your shadow people, know you from the Alaska Triangle, know you for your Egypt tours. What exactly are you big about right now? What is going on with you right this minute, Mike?
Right
Like
this
this
very
second.
minute.
right now it's
Right this very minute. I'm talking with you, fine people. After my crazy weekend, afterward, I'm gonna have a glass of wine and chill out.
I don't blame
so
you.
we'll be right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got a couple of beers in the fridge. I'm
there
going
we
for
go.
after this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, right this very minute. So, I mean, yeah, my hands are in a lot of different places, and that's because I believe everything's connected. So I have my platform that I've put together here the past few years called Connect Universe Portal, and it's bringing together all of these different facets. So when we talk the paranormal, when we talk cryptids, when we talk interdimensional beings, when we talk, ancient Egypt and ancient wisdom, the esoterica, the ancient civilizations, and and all these different things, the crazy things that go on in Alaska and Bermuda. It's all connected. Everything is connected. So, right now we're connected here on the show, but we are also connected to the planet. The planet's connected to the sun and the rest of the planets. The solar system. The solar system is connected to the galaxy. The galaxy is connected to the universe. The universe is connected to. That's a big mystery. What's beyond the universe? But it's all connected. Absolutely.
The ankle bone.
Yeah. There you go.
Bring
We're
in the
all in
song.
somebody's ankle bone.
There you go. There you go.
No
Absolutely.
joke.
Well, yeah, like the very end of Men in Black when you got the aliens shooting the marbles, and one of those are our universe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It very well could
True.
be. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Go ahead, Ken.
No, I was going to say you were talking about the Alaska Triangle. What are the boundaries of that approximately?
Yeah, so it's roughly the size of the state of California. It's pretty huge. Alaska itself
Wow.
is about 2.5 times the size of Texas, but the triangle goes from Juneau in the south, Anchorage in the middle, to Utqiagvik, or formerly Barrow, at the very top. And it's never a perfect triangle. We notice anomalous activity happening in a region, and we pick the 3 points, and we say that's the triangle, and that's because of the Bermuda Triangle and the nomenclature that came out of that, which they did in the 1950s when they were finally putting it together. Strange stuff happens here. They kind of notice it's sort of roughly in an angular sort of area, so that's where it came out of. Might be mixing Ken up with Adrian.
Oh, did you see Adrian's picture?
I have no idea.
No, Adrian, we've known each other for a while. Yeah,
I think he knows who you are, Adrian.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julie. Yeah, Julie. I've been there once, so that's why I was kind of asking, because I've actually been to Anchorage and throughout the Yukon Territory also.
Oh wow.
It
Okay.
was a 2 week road trip. It was great on a great
Nice.
big Greyhound bus or whatever the brand
How
was.
fun.
I took 2 overnight flights. One was up to Fort Yukon, up in the Arctic Circle, and then also around Denali, the peak of it. Oh my gosh, that was just so amazing. But I brought my stuff with me. I brought some of my paranormal toys and had them in my suitcase. And when I got up there, I had a note in my suitcase. We didn't know what TSA. We didn't know what this stuff was, so we opened it up and started laughing. Thank you for letting us look. I'm like, okay. So I actually did some investigating up there, and
Great.
also up in the Canada. Try again, the Canada area too. So it's a lot
Oh,
of
very
fun.
cool. Yeah.
A lot of fun.
So when
Yeah.
you done your research on
place.
the Alaska Triangle, how do you think, you said everything's connected? So how do you think it's
Right.
connected to the other triangles?
Yeah, well, I mean, that comes down to the Earth energy. That's where it all starts. They're all connected to the core of the Earth, and that's where we could take it all back to. Is you have that molten ball of iron that's spinning around and around and around. That's creating the electromagnetic field, the Earth's shield that protects us from the sun's rays. But as that magnetism is moving through the Earth, it's and as it goes through like the mantle and the crust, it's interacting with different metals and minerals, and depending on the metal and mineral it interacts with and the quantity of it, it creates these different localized electromagnetic fields, which is where we have a lot of this different crazy activity. So they're very much related in that regard. Is they're basically harnessing the same type of energy that comes out of the core. It's just what's there under the Bermuda Triangle is going to be a little bit different than Alaska. And Alaska's a really fantastic, I call it like a cocktail of different energies, because not only do you have the electromagnetism that's there, which in the 1960s, the U.S. Department of Interior did a survey there, and you just read through their literature, and they detected what they called negative anomalies. So they know that there's some strange stuff that happens there. But you also have a lot of seismic activity up there, a lot of earthquakes. The largest earthquake in North America hit there in Anchorage in 1964. I was there for a 6.7 back in 93.
Wow.
So they have some big earthquakes up there. There's a lot of volcanic activity. They're especially around the Aleutian Islands, but even just before I got up there in Alaska in 92, Mount Spur, just across the Cook Inlet from Anchorage, had erupted. So yeah, you have volcanoes, you have the earthquakes, and then of course you have the solar wind bombarding the area. And the magnetic protection is actually a little bit thinner in the ionosphere around the poles, and so that's why you have like those massive aurora borealis and things like that, the northern lights. So it's a fantastic cocktail of different energy. So a little bit different than Bermuda in that regard, but they have that relationship with the earth energy.
So on that earth energy, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I said it was interesting.
Oh, sorry. Well, that was awesome.
Great question.
So the magnetic fields that you were talking about, and the poles have been changing quite a bit for the last I just saw that this morning for like the past 400 years, and they're moving faster, I believe, right now.
Uh,
Uh, does that have effect on what I think people call ley lines, in
Yeah,
your
well,
opinion?
the earth energy does. That's all. Yeah, people call them ley lines. That's I always say ley lines is the layman's term for what we're really talking about, which is the telluric currents of the
Okay.
earth, the earth energy lines, which are under, basically running under the ground. And the ley lines are actually the geographic lining up of all the ancient sites of power that were built top of those currents, because the ancients could detect those things, and they would build, whether it was stone circles or temples, and these sorts of things. So people started noticing, Alfred Watkins, the old straight track, a little over 100 years ago now, just walking the English countryside, noticed, wait a second, all these different sites are lining up in this nice perfect line. What gives? And then come to figure out, it's like, oh, it's because you can go out there with your dowsing rods and find the energy. It's because they're all lining up like that along the energy lines. So yeah, it does really all come back to that sort of thing. Um, when we talk about, you prefaced that with something I wanted to hit on. What was that?
It was kind of like, does
The poles
the
moving, maybe?
Oh, the poles moving.
yeah, the
Yes,
poles
thank
moving?
you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something that's always been going on. The poles are
right.
always shifting a little bit. And yeah, it's moving toward the North Pole is moving more toward the northwest right now, towards Siberia. But on occasion, these things flip. And when they do flip, it happens in a heartbeat. Well, maybe two heartbeats. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will over the course of like some days. Once it starts making that trek to flip, it will be like a few days, maybe a couple weeks, and boom, it's flipped. At least from what science has been able to figure out. Going through, like, one of the interesting things is they've been able to figure this out through like ancient trees. That the last pole flip was about 40,000 years ago.
Oh.
And when you look at 40,000 years ago, and doing with whatever their equipment is, I can't remember off the top of my head. I actually do mention it in Alaska's Mysterious Triangle. Um, that they figured out that the Earth's magnetic protection got down to about 6 to 8%. So going outside during the day, you were going to get fried. So you found a lot of human activity inside of caves about 40,000 years ago. So a lot of the cave art that we see, like Spain, France, and all these other locations, that was really about 40,000 years ago when the last pole flip happened, and that lasted for about 400 years, which is actually a pretty good length of time. You think about 400 years ago from now, what was going on. The first folio of Shakespeare had just been published. So
Yeah.
Good point.
Wow.
Good point.
Karen's got a question for you, Mike.
yeah, that's an interesting question. Would earthquakes move the ley lines when tectonic plates shift? Yeah, that's a great question. So um, I would say to a degree that they probably do. So you know, over thousands of years, as things shift like that, then you're going to see that shifting in the ley lines over great expanses of time. But you get an earthquake today that moves. For us, it seems big, but the plates move like a very small fraction of an inch, maybe not even a centimeter or whatever. It doesn't have that big of an effect per earthquake. So you're going to go back thousands and thousands of years to find like those major shifts.
So,
Interesting.
Okay,
how
interesting.
did
It
you?
is a release of energy, and you have other crazy things happen like earthquake lights, which is like that ball plasma. Sorry, Shaw, go ahead.
No, no, no. Earthquake lights, ball of
Mhm.
plasma. What do you mean?
Yeah, so sometimes just before an earthquake happens,
Hmm.
people will witness these balls of light in a certain area, and they're like, what in the world is that? Why is there this ball of light that I'm seeing? And they call it, and so it might look like ball lightning or orbs in the sky or on the countryside or something like this.
Oh,
And oh, or they might even relate to something like ghost lights, and all of a sudden, boom, there's an earthquake.
oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it's really really hard to capture for really hundreds of years, scientists had debated as to whether or not this really existed. But over the last couple of decades, I think they have actually been able to detect it. And I just posted something a couple of months ago where a Chinese team had actually caught it on. They were looking for something else, and I think it was on some infrared or whatever. They actually caught it.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty
Interesting.
fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
That is.
Interesting. So
So,
with
go ahead.
I was going to say Adrian's got a question, but
Yeah.
with all of the recent earthquakes, I mean, there's been a lot of them
Yes,
recently,
there has.
Tennessee
and
just had one. Yeah.
volcanic activity. But uh, has anybody noticed any of these uh, earthquake lights?
Yeah, what's kind of interesting is it was going on around all the drone activity a few months back. So people were noticing the drones around New Jersey, and the people were, but it wasn't just New Jersey; it was all over the country and all over the
Yeah.
world. And people were looking up in the sky, and not only were they seeing drones, they were also seeing the balls of light. And um, within the succession of I think my first observation of something might be happening with the weather anomaly was actually in Scotland, because they were seeing the balls of light there, and then all of a sudden they had that massive storm Eowyn blow through, and people were mostly seeing the big balls of light around the Edinburgh area and on the Firth of Forth and all that. And then that was a place that got hardest hit, had the strongest winds, was around the Firth of Forth, around Edinburgh. Well, then it was a couple of weeks later. All the people are still reporting the crazy drone activity. And I know our government came out and said that, well, it was just testing. And yeah, I believe a lot of it was just testing. I don't know why they took 2.5 months to say it was.
Because they wanted to hide it. I
Right,
mean,
right. But everybody's like, you're doing
They
something.
didn't.
But
They didn't
but
want
some
anybody
of
to
it,
see it.
yeah. But some of it, you had government officials going out there and saying, well, I'm looking up, I see the drones. Yeah, but also some of these drones are coming out of these balls of light. Um, but then all of a sudden you had, New Jersey had a small earthquake, and then Maine, what was the next day? It was Maine, and then a couple of days later it was Montana. It was like boom, boom, boom. What's going on? Yeah.
yeah. Karen had said something in respect to the ghost lights. So this might be why we see so many ghost lights in
Yeah.
southeastern Missouri.
Could be. Could actually be. Yeah. That maybe not necessarily ghost lights, but actually the ball plasma from earthquake lights.
That is interesting.
Interesting.
Wow.
Mhm.
Adrian's got a question.
Yeah, Adrian, how do they view paranormal? Well, I mean, they're definitely a very superstitious culture. They have a lot of stories about like the jinn. So that plays big into their culture. In fact, when I first went to Egypt, one of the things I was looking into was the shadow person phenomena, and that's where they were kind of talking to me about the jinn. But part of their afterlife theories, which they don't really think of it as an afterlife the way that we do. To them, it's just another part of the journey. This is just what happens when you get to that part of the journey. But they believe in 7 different parts of the soul, and one of those parts of the soul is the shadow, or what they call the K-bit. And what's interesting is the shadow part of the soul and the Ka, which is the animated part of the soul, stay around on Earth for a while, and the Ka will eventually make its way off to the constellation of Orion. That's why in a lot of those tombs you'll find the false doors. That's the doorway that the Ka can use to travel on to Orion, but the shadow sticks around.
Huh. That's interesting because I had someone on my show not too long ago on the other show. But he was talking. We were talking about the paranormal and everything. And I kept saying Jen, and he kept saying, "Don't say it out loud. Please don't say it out loud because you're going to bring it in." Do they
Well,
believe kind of the same thing over there in Egypt?
Not necessarily that if you just speak it, it's going to bring it in. No, it's more of, they recognize that these beings come in and out of existence. I mean, they basically view them more as like an interdimensional being,
Okay.
something of that nature. But yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Words give things power, but
Yeah.
they don't think that you just say the word gin and all of a sudden, poof, there's the genie, like, oh, give me three wishes. I mean, no.
Yeah, he was very adamant that I don't say anything like that out loud while he was on the show with me, and I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, well,
My bad."
I have a question.
sure.
So, we've talked a lot about what you've done. What initially drew you into the study of the paranormal?
Ah, you see, I was gonna ask that question, so you
Yeah,
beat me to
yeah.
it.
Shaw, you should know this. We've done a number of shows together.
I know, but
Well, then why would you ask the question? Because I can understand Pam.
so I can bring oh, true. Okay, you got a point. I'll shut up now.
No. I'm just messing with you. Yeah. So I'm an experiencer. When I was about 8 years old, I had what we would call a shadow person experience. Woke up in the middle of the night, this tall, dark figure standing in the corner of my bedroom. I had no idea about shadows or shadow beings or anything like that at the time. I thought there was an intruder in the house, and they were there to either rob the place, kill me, something. It's kind of where your mind goes when you're that age. Um, did get physical with me. So it approached my bed, and I'm trying to scream. Nothing's come out of my mouth because I'm just, totally scared at the time, just terrified. And as it leans over, I'm staring up in this blank black face. There's nothing there. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, nothing. And did something really strange. It grabbed me by the wrists, crossed my arms across my body, and ran off down the hall, of all places, into a closet. Could not tell you why it ran into the closet, but it did. Maybe that's where the portal was. So at that point, I found my legs, ran off screaming to my parents' bedroom, told them what happened. They're trying to console me, calm me down, trying to tell me I just had a bad dream. But I knew I hadn't had a bad dream. I'd been awake for this whole thing. Now, I would never call that like a haunted house or anything like that. This was just like a one-off thing that happened. And we lived there for 10 years. About 5 years after that, we moved we were living in Massachusetts. We moved to a house in Ohio. And like from the moment that we moved in, there's this shadow activity that's going on. Very different than my first experience, where the first experience, very solid, approached me, got physical. This one, it would come up to my bedroom doorway, and I'd be like unpacking boxes, putting things away, and I'd turn and look, and off it would go, running off toward my parents' bedrooms, usually where it went to, which was straight down the hall. And this happened a number of times over the first several days that we were there, and I was finally kind of getting fed up with it, because I'd be unpacking, and there it is, and off and go. I was like, what in the world? So I finally asked my mother about it, and I'm like, Mom, I'm seeing this thing, and I kind of describe it again, not really knowing to call it a shadow person. I'm just describing what I was seeing, and she said, I've seen that too. Like, oh, okay. So this was great because one was, affirmation for me, okay, I'm not crazy. Mom is seeing this too, but she wasn't alarmed by it either. So it was like, okay, if Mom's not alarmed about it, then I guess I don't need to be alarmed about it. So I'll get playful with this thing. So I started calling him Tom, like peeping Tom. Anytime he'd like, peek his head in my door, I'd say, hi, Tom. And off he'd run. And that activity lasted for about the first 3 or 4 months that we were there, and kind of subsided. So I just chalked it up to something that was there at the house, was checking out the new family, deemed that we were okay, and went about its business. So those are the first two real significant paranormal experiences that I'd had. And yeah, just grew a fascination for the paranormal really ever since then.
That's
Good thing.
incredible.
Good thing you were nice to it.
Yeah. Well, the thing that really,
No,
yeah,
I mean,
the thing that really was like, okay, I'm hooked now. It was about a little bit more than a year later. I was a freshman in high school, and my friend David and I were at our friend Lori's house, and we're just in the living room, kind of shooting the breeze, talking teen drama, that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, Lori says, "I think my house is haunted." And David and I are like, whoa, okay, what's up here? This sounds cool. She was living in an older historic house downtown Worcester, Ohio. And, she starts, describing some things like, there's an old family cemetery in the backyard, and, these different things are going on in the house. The thing that most concerned her was her bedroom, the one wall in her bedroom, and she would tack things up. She couldn't keep anything on the wall. She'd tack up posters and things like that. They'd always fall down like an hour, a day, a week later. Couldn't keep anything on this wall. So it was the haunted wall. So David and I, this was like my first little paranormal investigation without really knowing it's a paranormal investigation. So David and I go upstairs. We're going to check it out. We're going to investigate it. And so we get into her room. We're taking a look at the wall. We're asking her more questions. She's telling us more stories. And David, I didn't know this at the time until that moment. He was a very, very sensitive guy. And he put his hand flat to the wall like that. And all of a sudden, he just turned this bright, bright red and started sweating profusely. I'm like, whoa, what's going on with my friend here? I've never seen this before in my life. So it starts going like wall to wall in the house, like seeing if there's any more kind of quote unquote hot spots. And that was really like the moment I knew that it's like, I have no idea what this is. This is fascinating. I knew somehow, some way, shape, or form that I was going to be involved with this sort of thing for the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
That is cool.
Isn't
So,
it
okay, so you
amazing?
talked about shadow people. Have you done like any research, investigation into what is a person or what it could possibly be?
I have an entire book called A Walk in the Shadows, A Complete Guide to Shadow People. So yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh, you don't know anything. Yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
way to bring it up, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I did a deep dive into all that. So as, kind of got a little bit older and, I was always involved in the paranormal community to some degree, early on, like, for me, which would be kind of late 80s, early 90s. There's no way to really, you didn't, the internet didn't exist. I was in a small town. The library had a couple of books, but not really. So it really wasn't until the mid 90s, the web starts really kind of proliferating and connecting with people on different message boards, the old bulletin board systems, forums, Yahoo groups came about, and that sort of thing. So just kind of chatting with people about different experiences. But I always had that interest, and I was writing at the time. My first book was a mystery novel, so I was writing fiction, and really kind of got involved deeper with the paranormal community when I had a publisher for my first paranormal book contact me and say, hey, even though and this was like MySpace days, okay, I was contacted through MySpace, and yeah, so she contacted me and said, hey, I know you're a fiction writer, but I see you also have an interest in the paranormal. I saw you wrote some, short stories about it, and that you talk about it sometimes on what was it then, the I can't remember, but basically it was your wall there. And would you be interested? I was living in Maryland at the time. Would you be interested in writing a nonfiction book on true hauntings and ghost stories in the state of Maryland? And it's like, well, yeah, sure. I actually took a day to think about it, and there's a fascinating side story with that. But so I published this book and started getting more involved with the community. So it's like, okay, all those conversations I had before, and now I'm I have this book and I'm giving presentations. So it allowed me to talk with more people about their experiences with shadows, similar to that I had, but also different ones. It's like, oh, there are even more variations to this phenomena. So, over the years, as I'm collecting these stories and discovering more, and going out on paranormal investigations now, and having other experiences myself, I'm now am I not only giving presentations on hauntings in Maryland, moved to Oklahoma, doing presentations on that. It's like I'm also now doing presentations on the shadow phenomenon. So, and then started doing some YouTube videos and stuff like that. So it just kind of became this amalgamation of all this work over many years that I was like, I'm a writer. I need to sit down and actually put all of this into a book. And that became A Walk in the Shadows.
Perfect. So you've written A Walk in the Shadows. What all books have you written? What all titles?
Quite a few.
I have 14 books. Yeah, I mean, 4 of them are anthologies, the Encounters with the Paranormal anthology. So not only stories of my experiences, but also other people sharing their experiences. So even if you're not related, you can't relate to something that I've experienced, you might be able to relate to somebody else's. And one of those we talked, Mineral Springs in Alton, Illinois. So each of those books had like a feature location. So the front of the book would be all kinds of different stories, but then the back of the book would be like our featured location for this particular book. And so Mineral Springs was one of those in Alton.
Nice.
So yeah, so technically those four are mine as well, but they're anthologies. So 10 that are just me. Two are mystery novels, Deadly Airs and System of the Dead, and then yeah, I've got Ghosts of Maryland, Ghosts and Legends of Oklahoma, Campfire Tales Midwest, the Ghostorian Case Files, and then yeah, the other big four. I call them the big four. Those are my last four. A Walk in the Shadows, Alaska Mysterious Triangle, Travels Through Time, and the latest one is Close to the Stars.
Nice, nice.
Cool.
I know I told you backstage though, we actually in my little podunk town in Kansas, we
Yeah.
have your Alaskan book in the library. And Ginger is in the chat. I saw her in there earlier. So
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for
yeah,
carrying that book. I really do appreciate it.
yeah, it's really cool.
Well, talking about some of your stuff, I want to talk a little bit about time travel, and I want to get your
Yeah.
perspective on it.
Okay. Well, time travel, I believe, is real. So, well, for one, and this okay, it's a big subject, Sean.
Sorry.
I have an hour and a half presentation I give on this, so no,
Ah, all right.
I'll break it down real
Let
quick.
in.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean the nature of time really is that it doesn't exist. Past, present, and future are all here concurrently. Take where you're sitting right now. Everything that has happened is happening and will happen. Are all there right now. Every moment, to me, I call stack time theory. Every moment is like a photograph and a giant stack of photographs, and every single one of those photos has its own frequency to it. So it's kind of loosely based on Einstein's theory of the Block universe. And even Einstein, right before he died, said, time is just a stubbornly persistent illusion. It's not real. So, so thank you, Albert Einstein, for making me not crazy. But yeah, time is it's a human construct. It's something that we've used to describe our reality, to keep track of the seasons, when to plant crops, when to show up at work at the right moment so our supervisors don't get upset with us, this sort of thing. The analogy that we give, the river of time, I mean, it's a perfectly fine analogy because of this rule set that we are within the universe. So in the idea of the river of time, time is the water, but the water isn't making itself run. It's the banks that are holding the water in place to make it go downstream. You take those banks away, and then all the water spills out into one giant stagnant pond, and it's all ever present right there. Another way to look at it is let's take a town that you're driving through, and maybe you're going 35 miles per hour. There's a couple of houses, maybe a general store, a gas station, a little church, all that sort of stuff. Maybe it takes you 5 to 10 minutes to drive through this town. So you have what we call a time relationship with that town. But now let's say, unless you're stuck at the airport like me, let's say you're flying overhead of this town and you look down, you see it all right there at once. The couple of houses, the general store, the gas station, the church, it's all there right in your view. So what you once had a time relationship with, you now have a spatial relationship. And so that's the idea of everything, time all existing at once. So if you can match the frequency of one of those moments to another moment, then you would be able to actually travel from one moment to the other. And we do see this play out a bit, in which two moments will bleed into each other. Those moments will resonate at the same frequency for a bit, and they'll bleed into each other, and we get what we call a time slip. And I believe not all, but a number of what we might call a haunting, or maybe even a residual haunt or something like this, are actually time slips where we're getting a glimpse of another moment in time. And the more fascinating ones are when those two moments actually interact with each other, where us from the quote unquote future is looking back into the past, and whoever it is that's in the past is looking at us, and they actually recognize us, can see us. Maybe they're seeing us as the ghost, that sort of thing. So yeah, we could really go down the rabbit hole.
So in that situation, do you think? Because I've actually seen uh, come across what you're just
Mhm.
describing, where I'm looking down at a wall, looking down, I find a hallway. The hallway didn't exist, but I'm looking in the past, 50 years in the
Yep.
past. Do you believe that if you were to take a step towards that, do you think you would go into that time frame, or do you think you'd end up with a bloody nose because you ran into a wall? It's
That's a good question. So, how long can you maintain that frequency?
mhm.
That's the kind of trouble with it. That's why we're not able to maintain it for long periods of time. Like a lot of times when people, excuse me, experience these time slips, it's just for a brief fleeting moment. And so yeah, you'd probably end up walking into the wall. But if you had a mechanism to be able to hold on to that frequency, then yeah, maybe you very well could uh you know keep
have step
going.
have step
Yeah,
back.
take a
Yeah.
step in there. Yeah. So it's the one area. So when I get deep into this, in my presentations, I always talk about how time travel is probably not jumping into a DeLorean with a flux capacitor and zooming off at 88 miles per hour and going back to 1955 and having a strange, weird relationship with your mother.
Ugh.
Okay.
That was the kind of it's a great movie. I love Back to the
It
Future. That
is.
was a
That was
little
cringy,
creepy.
though.
It
That
was
was
a little
cringy.
creepy. Um, as fun as that would be to jump into a DeLorean and do that, it's probably not going to be a machine. I believe is going to have more to do with meditation and consciousness. You look at, I think the film, well, the book that preceded it, Somewhere in Time, Richard Matheson's work. And he actually studied, a lot of the different concepts and theories of time. He actually referenced real books within that work of works that he studied. One of the chapters was almost like an entire book report on Man in Time by J.B. Priestley. So he studied a lot of different theories. I think it was pretty close to what real time travel would be, where you basically are willing the consciousness, projecting the consciousness from one moment in time to another. Where his character Richard Collier he synced up. He was able to sync up his consciousness to the moment. I think that's what real time travel is going to be.
Wow.
That's
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
Adrian wants to know about an Egyptian Bigfoot.
You know, the Egyptian Bigfoot would probably be like the Colossi of Memnon or some of these massive statues of Ramses. Go to
That'd be
the
some pretty big feat. Yeah.
temple at Luxor and some of these statues there. They do have really big feet.
Ooh. Trevor says hi, everyone. Hi,
Hey,
Mike.
Trevor Grassi. Yeah. Trevor's been, he spent the day with us in the Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour a couple of years ago. And
Cool.
Trevor's done a lot of amazing work here lately with the Khafre Project and the team that's finding those, doing the scans to find the big chambers under the second
Oh,
pyramid there on
wow.
the
Oh,
plateau.
that's
I was
fascinating
gonna
stuff.
ask you just about that. That's my next question.
Ah,
Wow, what a
What? That's
segue.
perfect.
Trevor,
nice,
you're
Trevor.
awesome. You can see
Thank
the
you.
future.
There you go. But yeah, I was just curious about what are your takes on these supposedly, are they real? Are they fake findings, the AI stuff? Or are there really additional chambers, like
Yeah.
stories, several stories underneath the pyramids?
Well, yeah, I would encourage you. So I had Trevor on my channel. It was a few weeks back now. So I encourage people to watch that interview. Go to Trevor's channel as well. He's got a lot of great material. He's been working with the Khafre Project team.
Well, Trevor, we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Yeah, get him on your show. You'd have a fascinating interview with him.
Okay.
Sweet.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I believe it's there. I admittedly, I mean, from in my opinion, I think it's hard to say specifically what it is when people are saying like it's the halls of Amenti or there's spiral staircases and things like that. I think it's hard to say specifically what's there. Large chambers. You have these big cylindrical, pillar sort of things, and that yes, absolutely. I think People just immediately hitting, saying it's fake news. That kind of knee jerk reaction, say, "Oh, it's fake." Like the,
Mm,
our buddy Zahi saying, "Oh, it's fake." It's like, well, you're
yeah.
talking real scientists, real scans, real patented technology, and they held a real press conference. That's real, guys. That's not fake.
Mhm.
And people misunderstand what the technology is. They think it's ground penetrating radar, and they're like, well, ground penetrating radar can't penetrate that deep. And they get some scientists from, I think it was out in Colorado's GPR experts saying, oh, it can't penetrate that deep. It's like, but it's not ground penetrating radar. It's not GPR. The SAR technology, it basically it does a surface scan, but what it's scanning for are the reverberations, the vibrations from voids that are deep underground, and it just needs to do a surface scan to do that. And they had already tested this out. Well, for one, the Osiris shaft, when the scans came back from that, it lined up perfectly. And oh, by the way, it looks like there's something even deeper. But there was the laboratory, and Trevor could probably tell you specifically because I can't think of the name offhand. The laboratory in Italy, where it's 1.4 kilometers underground, and they've got like a perfect scan of this thing, that far underground, because people were, throwing up their arms saying, well, yes, you're talking 2 kilometers underground. Well, that one's 1.4. It's not that different. So yes, it can penetrate that deeply. There we go.
Interesting.
Grand Sasso Laboratory. Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate that.
Wow.
Wow, so interesting. Yeah, I was seeing stuff like that a couple of weeks ago. I was like, "What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
How
Yeah, the
is?"
other one, they're flipping out about the water table,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, the water table's too high to come. Well, right now, water table's, too high for the Osiris shaft. A lot of the Osiris shaft is underwater. Well, the Egyptians didn't go down there, chiseling that thing out underwater. Trevor has made some great points about the technology of the ancient Egyptians for water diversion. Thousands of years ago, the Nile River was closer to the pyramids, so the
mhm.
water table there would have been even higher. So that makes an even bigger case that they had to do something, even just for the Osiris shaft, to divert the water to be able to carve that thing out. So yeah, they could have diverted the water for these other rivers there under the Khafre pyramid.
Hmm.
That, yeah, I never doubted it, but I'm like, oh my gosh, is this real?
Mhm.
Because the next thing that was on Facebook was some kind of AI goofy stuff. I'm like, okay, who's doing what here? But no, I'm really fascinated with that. That's kind of pretty awesome. So I'm guessing it's going to be in a future book.
Yeah, and Trevor's saying see you around too. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's of course, but I'll mention, but that's by all means the work of the Coffrey Project, and I owe a lot to Trevor there as well. So I'll have to interview them for the book. Okay, guys, give me the
Give me
lowdown
this.
here. But
Give me this
I have a
skinny on that.
fairly decent enough understanding of it, of course. So yeah.
Gotcha. No, that's
So
pretty
cool.
awesome. So one other thing here too. I know we've talked about time. We've talked about Egypt. We've talked about books. We've talked about spirits. What's your favorite topic to research? I mean, it sounds like you're into UFOs. You're pretty much into everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, and
Everything,
yeah,
anything
and
paranormal, anything weird.
right. Um,
Well, I am too. I
Yeah,
mean,
and Trevor's
Yeah,
making a point down there.
same.
It is the whole Giza plateau, not just the Khafre pyramid. Yeah, because there are chambers throughout that entire plateau, and that's the thing is we've known for a long time that there are other chambers throughout that
Mhm.
plateau, deeper ones. That should not be that much of a surprise. I mean, to answer your question, Ken, I'm interested in it all, and that's um, probably one of the it helps me and hurts me at the same time. So people can become like a super expert in this one area, and boom, they take off, massively successful at this one like little thing. I'm like the jack of all trades, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of it seems like I'm a little bit all over the place, but there's a method to that madness because again, I believe all of these things are connected.
Connected.
So,
Right.
so yeah, I've always, because of my experiences when I was younger, I've always had that, fascination with the paranormal and supernatural. And it plays a part in all of this when we talk about these ancient civilizations and, not just their belief systems, but things that they've actually experienced when we get into the interdimensional nature of our universe. That plays into the not just the cultural belief, but the things that people are seeing and experiencing all over the world, whether that's in a place like the Alaska Triangle or within the Great Pyramid of Giza or some of these different other locations, the Stone Circle up there in the UK. A lot of these, all of this is connected. Um, so yeah, I do like to study all of it. Yeah, I have had a fixation here with ancient Egypt, but I was just in the UK studying things that actually connect back to Egypt, which is truly fascinating. Um, so I've kind of taken this, outside the box approach,
Okay.
which it a geologist is going to look at the geology, an astronomer is going to look at the astronomy, all that sort of thing. So each person's, has their specialty like that. And I'm kind of like pulling from each and seeing how these different things all relate to each other and I'm connecting the dots. And to me, that to me, it's a big puzzle. It's a big mystery. And that's what I like to do is just solve the mystery of it all.
That sounds
Very
great.
cool.
Awesome.
Hey, on your first experience you talked about earlier, where you said the shadow figure took your arms and put them like
Mhm.
this. My first impression when you said that was,
Here it comes.
yeah, yeah. Here we go. Are you sitting down?
I know where I have
Uh,
I'm
you're probably
95% correct. You might throw something new at me.
well. I'm just wondering, could that have been the impetus for your Egyptian studies?
Crook and flail.
I was just curious. Yeah.
So well, and that's
And
that.
and the
No,
other thing is,
it's so I've always been interested in ancient Egypt. I mean, I grew up in Indiana Jones, right? So
oh,
um,
there you go.
but not just that. Where I really got inspired to go down that road. 1993. John Anthony West, Robert Schock, and Trevor is worked with John. And John passed, some years back now, but um, that Mystery of the Sphinx documentary just blew my mind where they redated the Sphinx. I was like, whoa, that is absolutely fascinating. And then less than a year later, the movie Stargate came out. So it was like,
Oh, okay.
you know, mind blown, stuff is going on. Yeah, so that's kind of where that sort of research for me really started. The whole idea of the crook and flail, that sort of thing. So that has come up before when I was doing a lot of my early research into the shadow phenomena, where I had been on, for a long, long time. I thought, shadow person was a shadow person. That was, kind of it. I was kind of, very narrow tracked there for a while in my early research. But then, I was on some different podcasts and I had people, psychic mediums suggesting that same thing. Maybe a crook and flail. I was like, maybe they thought that you were dead. They, were putting you into a burial pose, like that. I was like, that's an interesting outlook. So I started expanding my ideas and as to what these things are. And so with my book, A Walk in the Shadows, yeah, I broke it out to, whether it's interdimensional beings or ETs, or yeah, it could be a human spirit not fully manifesting as an apparition, light beings, astral projections, all these different ideas of what it could be. Because it's really what it comes down to is the way that our eyes take in the light. We only see into a very, very narrow band of the spectrum. So, but I threw that out there, that possibility. But just before I went to Egypt, because remember, the first time I went to Egypt, I was looking. Well, for one, I just always wanted to go, but I was also looking for more information about the shadow phenomenon there. Um, so I went through hypnotic regression. I went and had a past life regression and all this sort of thing. But I wanted to find out more about that incident. So the hypnotherapist and I, worked on that, trying to get back to that moment, and see if I could relive it. And instead of just reliving it, we were able to channel the actual being that had been there in my room.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
nice. Okay.
Yeah, it was really wild because I got to see this entire scene play out, not this time from my perspective, but actually from the perspective of the being. So I was
Okay.
actually like looking down at my 8-year-old self, and I could
Okay.
like think and feel and all that of the being, and it was really, really fascinating. And to make a long story short, too late.
No, that's okay.
You're fine.
What we found out was that this being was not there to harm me. In fact, it didn't think it wasn't aware that I could actually even see it until I started reacting to it.
Okay.
Ariana, the hypnotherapist, was asking questions like, where you from, why you here, that sort of thing. So what we got was that it was from, well, it said it was from another space. And so she asked, well, do you mean another dimension? And it responded with, well, you could call it another dimension, but really it's another space. So kind of that idea that we don't know as much as what we think we do about the nature of our universe. But basically this entity was there on a mission to study humanity. And it was assigned to the room of a child that particular night. Again, unaware that the child, me, could actually see it. And once it figured out and realized, the child can see me, I'm scaring the child. What it did, the whole crossing the arms, was it was trying to put me into a self hug to calm me down. And I could actually, from this perspective, see that it also
That makes
tapped my
sense.
wrists. And then
Oh,
it got out of there so it could stop scaring me.
That makes
wow.
sense. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So
That
it was
is
really,
very
really
Oh.
interesting.
good perspective.
So, one question about that: you said that you were kind of hovering above yourself, your 8-year-old self. Uh, were you able to just watch from above, or could you also see through the eyes of that 8-year-old child?
No,
Of you?
I was seeing through the eyes of the being. It was like I was the being. So I was essentially
Oh,
I was
okay.
essentially
Gotcha.
channeling the being. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
That's cool.
That
Yeah.
is kind of
And I
that's
hate to be
really
wrapping it
interesting.
up, but I
Yeah.
don't want to keep
No.
Mike too much longer. He's ready for that wine. That
This
water
is true.
ain't
It
that
was
water ain't
yeah.
helping.
Can we bring you back again in the future?
Of
We're
course.
gonna have to because
Oh,
there's
for
so
sure.
much more knowledge he's got.
We gotta finish part 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 12.
There
Yeah,
you go.
13.
Oh, that's right. Well,
Yeah.
13. There you go. Mike, this
Well,
has been
Mike,
fascinating.
it has. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna put you backstage.
Okay. Sounds good.
And we're gonna close up. Thank you so much for coming on. You
Thank
are
you
an
so much for
amazing
having me.
human being as always.
Absolutely.
All right. So next week, what do we got? I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't remember. But
I don't see anybody on the list.
well, then it's probably just gonna be us going amok.
So we're going to be talking to Shaw next week. I wonder who she is.
I don't know who that is. But yes, guys, tune in next week for us going amok as always. And thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Y'all take care.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks and good night.